Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mic is working well, that means we can start. Except one thing, I think I need to calm down first. I've given talks before, but today I feel different a bit. Being the pre-AGM talk of environmental technical division. I think I do not need introduction because I believe you all have the flyers which has been distributed more than 2 months, and most of you all are familiar with me. Still, just for formality, my name is Santa Kumar, serving in IEM for more than 8 years. I've been active in IEM in many technical divisions, and however, for the past 10 years, I'm with environmental division. It's very exciting. Too many issues when it comes to environment, not only in Malaysia but throughout the world. We share the same environment, we have the same problems, and most of the time, not all countries come forward in giving solutions or even remedial actions to overcome environmental problems. Because some of the problems it seems like possible to solve. Sometimes even if it's possible, it needs a lot of funds, money. Again, some of my background for some people here who still are not aware or don't know about my background. I involved in environmental issues from 1999, I guess. Those days in Pusat Tenaga Malaysia under Petronas was championing it. They were working with UNDP world level. A lot of funds were available then. They started with what do you call that? Energy saving mechanisms. During that time, this energy saving things was in the drive. Then from there on, even Malaysian government has put a lot of efforts. A lot of new ministries came forward, and some of it new names were given, like the green tech in Malay is called TECHA, Kementerian Tenaga Hijau, and so on. And a lot of overlapping with few different ministries championing this sustainable development. So throughout the last 10 years, a lot of workshops has been done, a lot of actions has been taken, and in Malaysian macro level, even our prime ministers have actually represented Malaysia in many agreements around the world. If I can remember, in my experience, from Kyoto Protocol back in 1999, it's about almost 10 years. Then it went on a few agreements around the world, but I'm telling the leading one. The last one being Paris Agreement. I think it was somewhere in 2015. A lot of these decisions have been made there. Decision means really promises. So we will be covering most of it today. It's going to be, I believe, a bit more exciting. I will cover as much as possible in a broad level. It's not going to be training or technical ideas, but it's more on a macro level. What is this environmental sustainable development? And to add, what is our role as engineers? We know here environmental Um, we were made of multidiscipline divisions. Name some. There are hardcore environmentalists. There are civil engineers, mechanical engineers, and some other science divisions. Yeah. But to find a person who really championing these sustainable things is still a big question mark. This has to be a teamwork. Just for information, this talk has been we are broadcasting it live, so I have to be very careful with my words. And audience also must be very careful with their words. Yeah, it's a precaution, yeah. I think I'm okay, I'm already warmed up, we can move. I like to stand here rather than around, so easier for me to, control this PowerPoint. Okay, again, my name is Hanta Kumaran. I am the present chairman of the Environmental Division. After today, no more. I have to step down because completing my 3 years term, there's the IEM rules. So after this talk, we will have an AGM to choose committee members. So those who are interested can stay on. I will try to finish my talk by 11 as promised. Okay. This is agenda. I'll be jumping crossover with this agenda here. The environmental challenges, engineer's role, which is throughout the talk. Today is about engineer's role. Don't ask me which engineers. We will go through it one by one. Or in a broad term, government initiatives, the developers' opportunities, and what's happening around us in the global level. Sustainable, environmental, I think people know. But what is sustainable? The dictionary says, there are two different pronunciations. Believe it or not, the UK guys who actually created English pronounce it sustainable. But we Malaysian, as usual, sustainable. Something that we will be able to use without destroying it completely. We can use, but shouldn't completely destroy it. That's number one. The other meaning is involving methods that do not completely use up or destroy the natural resources. How is it? It's a bit spinning, right? Do not completely use up or destroy the natural resources, but we still have to use it. We use, but the thing still has to be there. But that's the meaning of sustainable. A very questionable term. Able to last or continue for a very long time. That means what? Is it in our lifetime or our grandchildren's lifetime? Very long time. Are we talking about 100 years, 200 years? Even petroleum, they have forecasted another 35 years in Malaysia. So maybe 30 years is a long time here. I don't know yet. We will see later. How are we going to implement something seems to be impossible, that is sustainable, right? Most of the time, we have a lot of activities happening around us, like giving point systems, how to calculate carbon footprint, how to calculate natural resources that we use, for example, timbers and so on. But all those things at the moment is happening not concurrently, but most of the time the design is completed. Somebody will come and evaluate your designs or development, and they start giving you points so that the developer can win award, and the plaque, whatever, can be hanged, showing that this development got platinum or gold medals, in a sustainable, because they achieved the points. So engineers focus nowadays is more on the how to gain the points. For me, or for any environmentalist, the points is actually number 2. The number 1 is, before the development is being done, it should be evaluated. Before any development is being done. I'm looking at the macro level. Okay, the next slide. This is typically our desire. This is what we want. We want greenery, forestry, hills. You can see, I can't zoom here, there are some hills in the picture, streams and lakes. Transportation is, when people are talking about sustainability or pollution or environmental, transportation is one of the important sector, even in any development. Buildings, bridges. For why bridges? Bridges because they are building it across the beautiful rivers. Sometimes used to be very beautiful river. A lot of creatures. Sometimes it's crossing a sea like to an island like in Penang, for example. But we have to preserve even the sea, coastal line. You know how bridges are built? I didn't teach structural engineers, but at a micro level. For those who are not aware, they actually do a lot of pilings under the seabed. They put a pile cap. They bring the big barge over there. You know, they're actually destroying it without knowing, because their aim is the project. You know, then industrial. You cannot run away from industrial. Industrial is one of the biggest things that actually affecting our environmental. Okay. But this is being environmental challenges. But that is macro level. How about if we zoom further? When you zoom further, there are a lot of items here. I just managed to, not me, some of the papers, journals which I've gone through, they identify 15, actually more. They identify 15 items. And I'm not going to go through all these 15 items, because each item could be a technical talk or seminar, maybe 2 days seminar. So, but these are the challenges that who is facing. Environmental challenges, but I'm not saying this is environmental engineers' challenges. It is our challenges as an engineer, no matter which discipline you are. Many don't know that actually I am a mechanical engineer. I'm a building services guy throughout my life, and recently or past 5 or more than 5 years involved in infrastructure projects like MRT, LRT, port, and highways. So I have diversified, so I dare enough to speak on behalf of other discipline engineers, because we work as a team. Nobody can work alone. So we have to have the knowledge of this, so that our design or input to any development will be very powerful. We will look into further slides later, then we will be able to understand why we need to know all these items. Pollutions, from school time itself, you know, sometimes we require millions of years to recoup the soil pollutions, water. You know, like I said earlier, vehicles is one of the biggest contributor of pollutants. So when we come to development, we will see later how we can reduce the dependency on transportations. Global warming, number 2. It's also because of human practice, like emissions of greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases, which is all the gases are trapped around us, and the heat cannot be reflected back to the space. Okay, this is mainly human activities. Overpopulation, okay. Natural resource depletion. What is this has to do with sustainable? natural resource depletion, we'll definitely think of petroleum and coal, right? Definitely there's some influences, right? That is why nowadays talk of the town, which is sustainable. We want to sustain. We want to sustain. At the same time, we use up all the resources. We are using the resources, and we are talking about sustainable. Right? We need a miracle to, to actually have both at the same time. I don't want to go so serious. It's supposed to be a good Saturday morning. Right? Number 5 is a waste disposal. We in environmental division here conducted a few waste disposal talks, seminars, half-day seminars, site visit to 2 different sites to actually see what is waste disposal is all about. The biggest culprit looks like nowadays, today Saturday, what is that? Plastic free day or something like that. I'll talk about plastics, right? This is it looks like the global crisis of a waste disposal. Climate change is related to number 2 just now. Global warming. Loss of biodiversity. We see monkeys around housing areas. Obviously, their habitat has been damaged, so they got nowhere to go. But because you can see, how about squirrels? Well, why are we talking about biodiversity and we are engineers? It has effect on the supply chain of these animals, right? At the end of the day, it's going to hit us. It is going to be destroy the balance of natural processes. So we, as engineers, we are involved in the engineers. Developers are made of engineers. There are a lot of engineers there. Sometimes, they depend on consultants to give ideas. And consultants will be telling, no, you tell your requirement, I only do these ideas. There's a lot of things around. At the end of the day, we are destroying our surroundings. And then deforestation, cutting trees, logs, and it goes on. As I said earlier, I'm not going through one by one. It's just overall, just to say we really have environmental challenges. Paris Agreement gave us another big challenges. And surprisingly, many engineers didn't know what happened during what is Paris Agreement. All we know is the Paris Eiffel Tower, whatever, right? Some charming guys, lovable city. But they had Paris as something a very big hit. I think in 2015. It was after Kyoto Protocol, which is 1999. It seems like a successful. I'm talking about Kyoto Protocol, but a lot of weaknesses. They trashed it out in a Paris Agreement, and Malaysia agreed to it. What are they? A lot, but it's just a 5 key points. All right. The number 1 is limit the temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius. Because scientists believe if anything more than 2 degrees Celsius global warming going to go up means it's catastrophic. It's going to be difficult time. It's really difficult. Alright. So they put it 2, it's actually 1.5. Okay, it's number 2, maximum, they don't touch the 2 below. What is the big problem? The North Poles are, what do you call that? We are destroying the North Poles. Some of the small islands going to sink. It is continuing disappearing, the North Poles, the ice, because of global warming. Second is the first Universal Climate Agreement. It says that this is one of the first time almost all the countries kind of agreeing, but I got no evidence, but kind of agreeing, the whole world is agreeing to this, the whole Paris Agreement. Number 3 is actually helping poorer nations. So much of fund has been allocated by developed countries, about as much as 100 billion USD, to help poorer countries, mostly from African countries. how to overcome or to put more effort on the sustainabilities. You know, most of the time it's like preserving the greeneries. Number 4 is publishing greenhouse gas reduction targets. You know, everybody must keep account, keep track, and publish it out. And the last one is carbon neutral. Carbon neutral means here, whatever carbon dioxide, CO2 being emitted must be absorbed back. And who can absorb back? Forests, greens, greeneries. Some countries are in the positive, you know, I can name something like Bhutan in North India, or in Philippines, it's Palawan Island, I think. Palawan Island. They are at the positive side. They are, what do you call it, they greenery more. They can sink easily their CO2. Alright, those are the challenges. Government initiatives. I'm thinking of Malaysian government. I'm not going to read that. It's an old news, which is, I attended this during that time, in 2009. I think Green Tech, they wanted to introduce that all the products must be, what do you call that, in line with how to conserve the natural environment resources. This is one of the earliest when our present Prime Minister became a Prime Minister. CIDB, MyCREST. MyCREST stands for carbon reduction. Let me get it right. MyCREST stands for carbon. Okay, I don't have it yet. Okay. Malaysian Carbon Reduction Environmental Sustainability 2. They have an evaluation form. They have ways to calculate the carbon reductions. A lot of workshops has been done around Malaysia. They're still doing it, and many people are not aware. That is my concern. The last being last year October, somewhere in Hotel Shah Alam, 2 days workshop, and we were given rooms to stay there because the meeting went up to 9 o'clock after dinner. The next day, somebody asked, do we need to calculate the carbon reduction? That is the level of some of our experts in Malaysia. Because carbon credit calculations are very important. We in Environmental Division have done the course before, and we would like to have it again because many people still not aware how to calculate this carbon, the carbon footprint I'm talking about. This is another news release by CIDB working with another government agencies to champion these sustainabilities. And this is Ministry of Green, Kementerian Tenaga Teknologi Hijau dan Air, and they have a lot of agencies under them like SCADA and so on. They are really working hard, but what can they do without the experts who are sitting here? IEM is a bunch of engineers, all the engineers, if not all, 99% of engineers registered IEM. We are the ones supposed to support them, not they support us. It's like who initiate and who do things, and the brain comes from who? We are the brainy. We are the guys supposed to be advising them, writing to them. These are what we're supposed to do, and not wait for them ask us to do this and this. I can give you examples later how other countries have moved forward. I don't believe it's 100% from government initiative alone, but actually engineers with knowledge, not engineers with high CPA, GPA from universities. Engineers with knowledge. And knowledge comes from where? Around, and IEM is one of the source. Sometimes it's very Very sad to see. Very important seminars, we have only about 10 people sitting around. And we have speakers, very good speakers from foreign sometimes. I'm not telling foreign engineers are good, I'm telling the selected speakers. We invite them, come here, we pass around the pamphlets, and only about 10 people will come. And it's one of the most affordable places here, I think, IEM. I will talk about time to time what is IEM's role, what is engineers' role, and why we are here today, and what is environmental technical divisions doing. This is my last talk as a chairman. The next chairman will have more ideas, I guess. This is transit-oriented development. I choose this topic because this is the top of not a town, all over the world. And the word transit, it triggers most of the time is the very nice, beautiful train passing through the cities. And people be walking around, no cars, So somebody has actually come out with ideas to tackle the market. It says, an exciting, fast-growing trend in creating vibrant and livable, sustainable communities. If we read and read, you can understand. If you see the pictorial or pictures, we can understand better. Okay, so in this term, the transit is here. That means somebody who has in their mind that transit is sustainable, falls under sustainable item compared to other vehicles like buses, or cars, vans, or motorcycles. So they have put that transit in a whole one paragraph, but transit is there. Transit-oriented development. I am not championing transit-oriented development, but it's something very important that we need to look at it in a full context. Alright? This is just an example on how TOD works. TOD says the last up there, no parking sign, that means less cars. We see a lot of people around. There are universities around, the colleges, workplace, office, except industrial, which is maybe pushed aside. The industrial cannot mix with TOD. Who came up with this kind of concept, and is it workable? Is it workable in Malaysia? Maybe other countries workable. But we have to keep track with the changes around us. If we go for meetings, or with suddenly one client called up, developers, they are throwing the ideas. Architect may understand. How about engineers? Are we going to what is theory or look? Or maybe they know, but insight. How far? What is the depth level that they know? Or are we going to tell this is another consultant's job, another engineer's job? We only do our job. If you're a businessman, you say like that. We only do our job. If you're employed, you have to say, yeah, we'll look into it. Right? I'm talking about knowledgeable engineers here. Some are young, some are seniors. Probably the question is directed to the young engineers. How much experience, the knowledge they can harness, so they can confidently walk around and say, I'm an engineer. Okay? Again, still under TOD, some graphics. Developers, office occupiers, retail talents, residents. We look at the next slide. This is from American slides. They say, the first one, reduce dependency on driving 57%. Then other benefits. Allow residents to live and work and play in the same areas or nearby areas, provide access to better. Is this practical? Is there any development has been done around the world to show that this is practical? I believe this is practical by looking at Singapore. Singapore done it. Korea done it. India has done it. America always there leading. Because many places have been happening. Malaysia, there are talks that developers is asking engineers, architects, consultants, how to do such a thing. In Malaysia, it's a different scene a little bit. We have political influences because we need to get so many approvals from so many ministries. You want a theory and you want a rail to pass by. Stuff at the moment, but not in the future. The young engineers now, 25, 35, if they put in their mind, they do work with government sectors, they do work with developers. Together, they can be more powerful than architects. This is Bukit Jalil, I read in a newspaper. It's kind of theory. They are thinking of the Ampang Puchong LRT line as a part of it, which is running opposite, not inside their premises, but they put in the articles, we have LRT is running through, and they have teaching facilities, or colleges, houses, offices, hotels, hospitals, shopping, greenery, water features, lakes around that region. So it's a sellable item. But my question remains the same. Who is really championing? Is it developer? Is it architect? Engineers, planners? And who are they? Are they environmentalists? Why they come out with the idea of this? Are they really protecting the environment? Or they're calculating money? It's sellable. I believe it's going to be expensive, right? It's just my own feeling. If it's cheap, it's good. This is what I said earlier. The TOD is supposed to look like this. Around this area, you can easily available. You want to buy food, you want to go to work, you want to go back home. No parking space, but you still have a nice transport running in between. This is already happening. It's not graphic. This is not graphic. But can we do this in Malaysia or any region in the Southeast Asia? Say Jakarta, Bangkok, Manila, Yangon. Possible. If you drive in Yangon today, you cannot drive. If you drive in Jakarta today, you cannot drive. You'll be stuck in the jam for 3 hours. Last week, my friend missed flight in Manila. Within 10 kilometers, he said it was 3 hours inside the car, stuck in a huge, massive traffic jam. I saw in Channel News Asia, Yangon, we thought Myanmar is a poor country, but everybody drives cars and big cars, big cars, and all stuck in the traffic jam. They're talking about how to overcome. I mean, if you mismanage, I'm talking about engineers, we don't put a proper input to become a not balanced, imbalance. Car life. Some countries already practicing this. Malaysia cannot. Malaysia, we all drive cars. And we want parking lots. Car light means parking also less, no parking. Malaysia, we have a very long way before we can achieve this, maybe 30 years. But before that, the development must be proper. Because without car, we cannot commute. Cannot. We need car. But if the development properly done, maybe can. Right? Engineers Road, finally. Can an engineer manage the whole sustainable issues? An engineer. Or can a group of engineers manage the whole sustainable issues? Even if they can, what discipline of engineers they are? You cannot look left and right, is their job. Their job. That's why the team, when the team is created, we come from different discipline of engineering. But the knowledge must be there. The knowledge must be there. Only when we design things, we go back to our own discipline. When we do our project, we go back to our own discipline. But in the meetings, or the creating the ideas, if we neglect all the environmental issues, it cannot sustain. The environmental and sustainable cannot blend. We cannot sustain. But sustainable, in my personal opinion, is not a myth, even though I started with question just now. Sustainable is not just myth. It is achievable. Some countries have achieved. Okay? Developers come out with ideas most of the time. Some developers are just purely businessmen, but looks like they can think ahead of us. Engineers only look into calculations and claims. Planners, but academic, or they really come out with new ideas, which new ideas is not what they like, but what the environment needs. So who is jumping in the environmental issue? Cannot be just environmental engineer. If they study environmental engineering, they come out is everything is on their head. I don't believe that. Each and every one of us must have idea at least. Engineers need to develop themselves. Engineers definitely need to develop themselves. Senior engineers, maybe they are enjoying their life. They have knowledge, they have seen the past, they have a lot of experience, they are sharing their experience. But the young engineers is the one supposed to move the things. As I say time to time in environmental technical division, there are a lot of technical divisions. All the technical division is conducting lots of technical talks, technical seminars, what else? Site visits. They really choose and select. Especially we in our environmental division, we are very careful in choosing the topics and the speakers. The speakers must be qualified to stand here in front of engineers and speak. But lately, we are seeing that the participants, engineers, getting lesser, coming or registering. We have to approach them and we have to tell them, look, it is not just monetary kind of training that we cover. You give some technical trainings like AutoCAD, how to calculate bridge structure, how to calculate drain water pumping system from one water dam to another developing area. They all come because it's part of their job. When they learn some certain things they don't learn in universities, even after 10 years they still blur. So they come, they learn, then they can design, then they can get pay rise, and they then get scolding from developers or even government sectors. How do you calculate this? For that they will come, they pay. But when we give them a broader knowledge which is back up how to speak, how to be a knowledgeable engineer, how to speak in the meetings, in a workshop. If suddenly selected, today you represent your firm, you go to Zurich, Paris, Manila, Japan, Tokyo. So how the person going to speak? Only what they know? I know how to design air conditioning. I know how to design fire protection system. That's all. People talking about macro level nowadays. People ask, what did the Paris Agreement say about this in the meeting? You say, that's not much. Is that the way we're going to answer? Some of the things are not even covered in our daily papers, daily news, Star, News Trade, C3, Somali, Berita Harian, they don't even cover most of the items. They will cover somebody dancing with Batisha, somebody ran away with another guy, one hot celebrities coming, somebody slapped somebody. No political. I try my best level not to bring any political things here. I don't want to get slapped here. Okay guys, hey, enough to say about that. This is old Kuala Lumpur. It was nice then, right? But we cannot go back here. We are thinking forward to achieve the same comfort level. That is what we are looking. Definitely not going back to rickshaw or becha or small buses like this. No, I'm not talking about that. But to have a comfort life like this, with trees, greens, people walk. I walked before from, now it's Pasar Seni. Those days it's called Fish Market in early 80s. Fish Market. Pasar Seni now is actually Fish Market. I walked from there to all the way to Jalan Tunku Abraman, Globe 6 store to buy shirt during Christmas. We walked. My father dragged me. I was 10 years old. We walk. Nowadays people don't walk. Examples of well-planned cities. As I said earlier, TOD is a term. But what still people call this kind of places is actually well-planned cities. Transit is just one of the items. It's not a must. It's just one of the items. It's supposed to be well-planned cities. Singapore, small island, very nice. It's city rates highly because of its infrastructure facilities from 90s. Now it's even getting better. Why they can think of such a thing that we Malaysians cannot even think? This is India. It's called Chandigarh. Neatly planned. I don't have many pictures, but it's definitely in the internet. It's neatly planned and divided into sectors which are nicely connected to one another. Adding to that, every sector has a park and a shopping street with plantations surrounding them. This is Zurich. Public transport is managed well. It is one of the few cities that connects the main cities with the suburban. And from the articles I read, the time to reach these places is very good, because of their well-planned facilities, the transportation. As the article says, connects the main city with the countryside. Paris, wide boulevard throughout the city with squares and intersections. New railroads are coming. This city, the similar view you can see 100 years ago. The article says, in time to time they upgrade. And the latest is actually they have a new railroads, gorgeous buildings were constructed, and it still looks nice. They can do. And we wanted to do something in a Titi Wangsa, and then I saw the budget, it's quite high. The Titi Wangsa Tase, is it something like that? What happened to that project? I'm not sure. See, we have ideas, we have money, but the ideas is not really up to the mark where we can really proud to say this is sustainable. You know. Copenhagen, we will never achieve this because here they don't drive car. The city has carried out bicycle. We don't ride bicycles, right? An example of green city, urban living, community. This is my last slide today. Very fast. Very, very fast and speed. Okay, I have questions but no question mark. There is no need to answer. No marks will be given if you answer. What type of skills that engineers need? Go back and think about it. Share with young engineers. Share with upcoming engineers. Share with student engineers. What type of skills that an engineer need? Intelligence definitely. CP, GPA, yeah, it's a gauge. But it's not the only thing. They need to engage with seniors like us here. They need to come here. They need to participate. They need to ask questions. That are the engineers that are looking at. When you go for interview, they must be able to speak sense. Do we need to study again? You know, we saw so many examples like middle-aged engineers. Do we need to go to college and study? That is personal, individual. If you really think that you need extra knowledge, you go to study. Otherwise, we can always upgrade ourselves by attending short courses, alert, read proper articles from the internet, not improper. What you call it? Something is not appropriate, right? Where can we get knowledge? You know now. By now you know already. Is there a teacher who can teach us? A teacher. Do we need a teacher? We are engineers. Do engineers need a teacher? Yeah, maybe. Trainers, right? I teach, you listen, you teach, I listen. That is the best teaching. Sharing business. Sharing knowledge. Are we supposed to think of our surroundings? Yeah, definitely. We have to think when we design something, not only for our fees. Design for future. Think of our surroundings a little bit. There are a lot of designs that has been done without that aspect taken into consideration. I'm quite sad. I involved in projects for years. Sometimes arguments with architects. You are not taking into this consideration. Architects say we got no time. I say no, come on. You know, this is some of the bad experiences that I've gone through. Are we supposed to think like an engineer? Of course, right? Of course. I didn't plan to finish the talk this early. I think pretty good. I did my time and I have promises. Any questions you can ask, or else you can go for breakfast. Okay, if there's food still available. We will continue with our AGM after, if there's any questions. The AGM today, all of you are invited. All of you can contribute. Before that, okay, any questions? I have done with my presentation. Thank you.